You're listening to the 49 Carats Podcast, a 49ers Goldmine production with Stephanie Sanchez.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the 49 Carats Podcast. I'm your host, Steph. It is Monday, November 11th. The 49ers improved to 5-4 coming out of the bye week after a roller coaster of a win against the Tampa Bay Bucks. Joining me to talk about that and nominate some 49K Player of the Week choices is Weston P. Smith. Weston, how you doing, man?
I'm all right, Steph. I feel like weird
right.
today. I feel like I should feel more excited than I do. On a personal note, I'll be in Texas for a couple of days this week for work, so it's almost like going on a little mini vacation sabbatical from the family. So I guess everything's on the up and up.
All right, yeah. Well, I guess we'll take that. Hopefully, that helps you out. But yeah, we've got a crazy nail biter of a win to talk about. Before we do that, I mean, it is Veterans Day. I do have to give a shout out to all the service members, past and present, and thank you for your service. And with that, let's get into this game. Okay, let me ask you this, Weston. Is any of your emotions feeling weird have anything to do with the game at all?
Yeah, entirely with the game. I'm sorry. I've been misleading everybody for 2 years on this channel. My emotions are solely based on how this team acts and performs. So 100% based on the game for sure.
Yeah, and Joel, thank you for your service.
Yeah,
all right, so explain that to me, right? Like I didn't get to talk to you yesterday. What was weird to you about this game, aside from the obvious?
Well, I mean, yes, there's the low-hanging fruit, which we'll get into in just a moment, but it just felt like outside of those miscues and those blunders, like should have been a game that we ran away with, right? I thought they utterly dominated the game, both offensively and defensively, but there's three phases to the National Football League, and we didn't fare so well in one out of the three. And the other thing that's got me, so that ties back to what we've been talking about. What's the common theme for this team all year long? Can't finish. They just can't finish, right? Like they just find ways to make it more. And there's nothing about what we've seen over 9 games now that makes me think that will be corrected, right? I just think it's going to be it's going to be a slog like the rest of the season. Everything's going to be more difficult than it needs to be. So there's that, right? I should be excited about winning 2 straight, coming off the bye with a win on the road. All the good things. You have a division opponent lined up next week. Christian McCaffrey's back, right? Like Dre Greenlaw's close to be back. All those things I should be excited about, but I'm like tempering my expectations. And then there's this Brock Purdy conundrum that I live in. Like statistically, if you pull it up, 25, 36, 353, just under 10 yards per attempt, 2 touchdowns, 120 QB rating. Like you look at that and you're like, gosh darn, that's a good stat line by any means. And then there were moments in the game where you're like, is this game going too fast for him, especially like early in the game? And then there were moments like the pop fly to Christian McCaffrey, which is the only throw he can make, or the George Kittle touchdown where if that was Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen that made that play, we'd be talking about it for weeks. Like that is one of those, when you talk about what a $65 million a year quarterback is supposed to bring you, or a franchise quarterback is supposed to bring you, it's supposed to be more of those plays, back-breaking, right? By all intents and purposes, Tampa Bay had the receivers locked up. He had all the time in the world and then scrambling and still find a way to find your guy in the corner of the end zone. So there's like moments where I'm like, regression. And then moments like, God damn, that is a hell of a football play by number 13. So I just sit in this seesaw effect with him where I'm not sure what I'm supposed to believe. What I do know is he's a good quarterback, but he shows moments of greatness and then he shows moments of mediocrity. And I'm just like, which one? The truth is somewhere in between. But like, God, he just keeps teasing us with the greatness. And I need more of that. I want more of that because that's how you're going to see yourself through these final 8 games, right? And what your playoff push is going to be. So that's That's my emotions right now.
Yeah, it's a little like Jekyll and Hyde
Yeah.
right now, or just this season. And maybe Brock Purdy's performance in a way has been a microcosm of the 49ers performance overall. Like, except for, in certain spots, like Brock Purdy has been able to finish. And I think against the Bucks on Sunday, certainly that fourth quarter
He
was
did it twice in that game.
he's pretty good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of inconsistencies for the whole team. And early last week, I was on the negative train like a little bit. And not like super negative, but also just being realistic. Like I just didn't see it with this team like being a Super Bowl contender. I'm not doom and gloom. If people still want to continue to believe this is a contending team, like I'm not going to argue with you. Like sure, like that's fine, but where I'm at right now is like that's just not how I feel. So I've been voicing that right on Bully Ball last week with Jay. I actually chose the 49ers to lose this game against the Bucks, which was actually kind of surprising for me. And just as the week went on, like I did kind of buy into, I guess, the hype of Christian McCaffrey coming back, 49ers coming off a bye week, and Kyle Shanahan is a lot better after the bye week, as head coach of this team. And, so all those things got in my head, and suddenly I was starting to feel pretty optimistic about this game. And yeah, like there's no way they should lose this game. The rest deficit that the Bucks are in going into it favors the 49ers, all these things. So again, in my head, I'm being positive on it from the 49ers standpoint. Going into it though, like as this game went on, I was like, I was onto something. I must have been, right? Like it played out how I really thought it would. Like, and that was disappointing because I get my hopes up about this team. And it's also disappointing because I think the frustration that has mounted about this team is that we know they should be better. We know they should be better than how they're playing. And that's, to me, has been just a little unacceptable, right? And Christian McCaffrey coming back, I thought would alleviate some of the issues that this team has been having, at least like on third down, in the red zone. And when that didn't immediately improve with Christian McCaffrey back, I was like, oh, like this team looks the same more or less with him there. There's some plays that he does that only he can make. And it's like, I love to have that back, but 49ers still 5 of 11 on third downs, in the red zone, 1 of 3. And, you add on special teams and how Jake Moody underperformed in this game in his first game back from multi-week absence. Yeah, they just don't look like a team that's all the way together there. So I'm having a hard time, right? Like, and I'm not trying to be all doom and gloom, but let me get to this super chat really quick from Corey. He says, I'm a Niner fan, but gotta be real. This team is a bottom feeder. It can sometimes beat the bad teams, but looks as if they'll get rolled against the good. Weston, I'll let you respond to what I said, and if you care to respond to this comment at all.
Yeah, I'll respond to Corey's comment first. I mean, all signs point to Corey being accurate. I mean, that's you can only go off the sample size, and the sample size says they haven't beaten a good football team yet. Tampa might have been the best by record that they probably have beat to this point, but this is what we were just talking about. Like, what team are you getting? Are they playing down to the competition? Do they play up to the competition? Responding to you, Steph, I'd say I am not all doom and gloom either. Like, here are the positives, right? Like, they've won 2 in a row. The National Football League, it's hard to win football games. It's hard to win, multiple games in a row. They had to travel across the country to the 1 o'clock, Eastern time zone, right? That's difficult in itself. Now, what's frustrating is they're playing a wounded team that just came on a short week for them, that just came off playing the world champs, going to overtime. Their defense was on the field a lot. Hot day in Tampa. Should have been tired. Should have dominated is what you want to say. But I go back to my opening statement about like my emotions, that they actually did dominate the two most important phases of the game. It was the third phase, specials, that we'll talk about, that kept this close, right? I mean, defense played well. I don't care if there's 20 points on the board. They were given short fields on the muff punt. They're giving short fields on a 49 and a 50-yard missed field goal, right? Because that ball is placed where it is kicked from, not where it is snapped. So they're on their plus 40-yard line to start those possessions multiple times. And I think the defense held their own. So and then the Christian McCaffrey piece. I did not expect this to just pop, right? Guy hasn't played football in a long time, but I do think you got glimpses of how much things change, right? When he's on the field, you no longer know if this is run or pass, right? Because doesn't even matter where he aligns, right? Because they'll have some gimmick, somebody in a motion, a jet sweep, Debo take the handoff, they'll bring him across the formation, whatever it is. The defenses have sniffed out the 49ers. Go back and watch some of the tape. I'm telling you, they now, the formula is out there. And what the formula says is you need to bend but don't break, right? You can give up yards. And I'm not saying, like, listen, Jake Moody was actually, 14 and 15 or something? Like, I think only missed one field goal before he was out, right? So yesterday, definitely a blow-up game, etc. And I'm not saying they're like, play for the field goal because their field goal kicker stinks, right? But against the San Francisco 49ers, what did they do last year that they're not doing this year? What is 3 points this year, or an attempt at 3 points this year, was 7 points last year. And if you're a defense against a 30-point per game offense, you're saying, just don't give up the big score. So if you notice, the offense looks different because defenses are consciously taking away the middle of the field, which is where their big plays are, and forcing them to go outside the numbers and do things the quarterback is not entirely comfortable with, the rest of the team is not entirely comfortable do. And then they shrink the field down into the green zone, eventually the red zone, where the middle's automatically taken away, and it's advantage defense. Right? That's literally what's happening. Yeah. I think the defensive coaches are going into this game saying, don't give up the 60-yard home run. Don't give it up. Do whatever we need to do. Let them drive, put together 12, 13-play drives, because there's no evidence of them finishing those drives off, but plenty of evidence that if you give them the home run, they will take it. A la Ricky Pearsall's touchdown, right? Like, that's a home run ball, those sort of things. So it's not doom and gloom. There's just evidence to the contrary that it's not going to get any easier. They're not just going to wake up and all of a sudden they're going to be winning by 14, 17 points week after week, which is what this game should have been. I'd feel a little bit differently if they went in and mollywopped them. I do think they did, not on the scoreboard, but we talk about it. That's what bad teams do. Bad teams let bad teams hang around, and that's what the 49ers did.
Yeah, and honestly, like, I'll say this. Like, I don't think the Bucs were as bad as a lot of people think they are. I think they're a little better than their record, or they could play better than their record. And you saw it in this game. Baker Mayfield, scrappy, like very competitive. He will fight to the very end. We saw that. But I'm with you. Like, I guess, like, I wanted it to be a little, I wanted it to look different. At the end of the day, though, the 49ers still won. So that is a positive, right? Like, you have to win the games you have to win, and the 49ers have won their last two. I mean, that's good, right? Like, and they'll probably, I'm sitting here not being super optimistic about this team, but I'm sitting here saying they probably win next week against Seattle as well. I mean, it's the Seahawks, right? Like, I'm feeling pretty good about that matchup, and just how the 49ers kind of dominate Geno Smith. So they can win 3 in a row going into that game against who they get first, Packers, right?
Yep.
So yeah, I'm still thinking anything can happen, but I always add the caveat that not with the way that things are currently looking, right? Yeah. Some things have to change in order for me to change my mind. So as of right now, based on what I'm seeing, you guys know how I feel about it. People get upset. People get upset when you're not, like, all gung-ho about this team and their chances of winning. It's just so weird because and people act like just because we're content creators, we aren't fans too. Like, we are fans of this team who have emotions and
says it right here.
Very
Addicted. All right.
I like that. I like that. And for the audio listeners, it was like an Adidas symbol with 49ers logo in it. I do love that. But yeah, I mean, I just need to see more improvements, more changes. I understand that doesn't always happen one week to the next. So
No.
as long as they're winning games and staying competitive, I mean, that is good.
Here, if we want to your point, Seth, I, of all people, I'm always looking for the silver lining. I admit I am blindly loyal to this team with the caveat of like, I will poke holes and I will tell you what I see, good, bad, or indifferent. But none of that's going to change about how I root for this team, my game day rituals, like all of my weird obsessions that I've had for years. Like none of that's going to change. But a positive takeaway from this game as well is had a lead, felt like it was going their way really early, right? Things changed, gave up that lead, have every reason to never retake the lead, took the lead, tied it, went down, drive, did what they were supposed to do. I would argue that the team that I saw earlier in the year wouldn't have done that, right? Like would have just been, once they gave up the lead, it would have just been another epic spiral collapse. So there's a positive thing. And then what you really want and what makes teams like the Kansas City Chiefs so dangerous, because if you look at what they're doing throughout the year, they're not convincingly smacking teams around either, right? Like, I mean, Jesus, they walked out of there by the skin of the teeth with Denver by blocking a field goal at the end of the game, right? That would have won it. But those wins, those add up, not just in the win column, but they gritty wins, right? Like learning how to win the game differently. In years past, we've seen the 49ers just win the game that they just got out ahead, right? Like 21-point lead out of the gate, and then they play hold on, right? This was a different type of win. They were trying to play hold on, gave up, then gave up the lead and needed to come back. That's a positive thing in the NFL, being able to win from behind. What are we told? We've been told that Kyle Shanahan can't win from behind. Yes, it was only 4 points, but we haven't even seen them do that as of late, right? So there's some positivity there.
Yeah, I like that. I think it's good perspective. Sometimes you got to add in the good with the bad, and you get the 49ers, right? so yeah, that's just where we're at. And look, I want to remind people too that even when I'm not optimistic about how things are going, I just look at things from a different lens. I look at, hey, how are the young players doing? How are the rookies doing? And I mean, so as the game went on, like that's kind of what I started paying attention to. And then I was like, oh wait, like the 49ers could win this at the end here. And then they did. So then I could be, positive again. But like, I guess I would just urge people to look at this team from a different perspective. If it feels like they're not a playoff contender for you while you're watching a game and you're upset, just look at it from a different perspective. Think about, hey, like how's Brock doing? How are these rookies doing? Because they're going to be the face of this franchise before we know it, right? So just think about those things as well. But hey, do you have anything else to say before we get into 49K Player of the Week? Because I do have plenty to say about special teams, but I'm like, should I save that for the what segment? Because you know which segment I'm talking about special teams.
No, I would just say that like buckle up, like it's gonna be a bumpy road, and the 49ers work is cut out for them. There's a very slim margin of error for the back half of the season if we all of us have the expectations that this team should at the very least make the playoffs in the NFC. But nothing's given. They're still the former NFC champs, and they're going to get everybody's best game and everybody's best shot. Trent Williams said it best. Like, you don't scare anybody off the bus anymore. The boombox coming out the tunnel, the hype machine, it just doesn't have the same cause and effect. Got to go out there, lace them up, and play ball. And I expect a lot of weeks to look exactly like this Sunday did.
Yeah, and look, if the outcome is a win, that is a good thing. So
A win is a win.
We'll continue to hope for that, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
it's the other thing. Like even if we're not feeling good about the team at times, we still hope for a win over being right. Trust me, I don't want to be right about a lot of these things. So with that, let's get into some more positive here. 49K Player of the Week nominations. And I want the chat to get into this too and give your thoughts. Weston, I'm going to go first, if that's cool with you. And you're going to say, of course, it's your show. Thank you.
Like I had a choice.
Oh, thank you. You're a gentleman. All right. So I'm going to go with Brock Purdy. 25 of 36, 69.4% completion percentage, 353 yards. That's the third highest in his career, 119.3 passer rating. In the fourth quarter alone, he was 10 of 14, 160 yards, a touchdown. That's pretty good. That's get the job done. And I understand, like, he was shaky. Like, I think we're on the same page about that, Weston. He has looked inconsistent. He has looked, I don't know, just kind of inaccurate at times. And he started this game inaccurate. Some balls were going too high. Just little things like that we've been seeing with him. But I got to give his props when it came down to it in the fourth quarter. He came through and he was getting lit up from the Tampa Bay Bucks blitzing, right?
Yep.
Not lit up as he was getting hit, but he was on fire as in hot, and not because of the Tampa Bay heat, but the Tampa Bay pass rush heat.
Yep.
So in against the blitz, he was 18 of 22, 274 yards passing, 15 first downs from his passing, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, 148.9 passer rating. That's pretty good. That's pretty good against the blitz. I know he was sacked a few times, but I think Brock Purdy did enough to win this game and put the 49ers over the edge. We've seen him do it before, put this team in position to win. Thankfully, this time, the game-winning field goal, Jake Booty did hit. But Brock Purdy and a few of his buddies, helped make that happen.
Yeah. Listen, I said it when we were talking earlier that like the ebbs and flows of the Brock Purdy experience, and you saw all facets in this game. But when it mattered the most and when the chips were down, he played lights out, and you can't take that away from the kid. And we talked about some of those big throws, and that's the growth and maturity that you want to see. Like, sorry, but the days are over of, hey, that guy was a 7th round pick, he's playing beyond expectations. No, the expectations are set. And once he cashes the check, might as well have been the number 1 overall pick, right? Because that's going to be the expectations that come with it. These are the things that you needed to see. These are the things that start to make you feel a little bit more comfortable when the chips are down, right? When you're behind. Can you orchestrate a game-winning drive? Like, all quarterbacks probably look good when everything else is humming, right? Defense playing well, offense playing well. And this was a prime example of that. It's funny that you mentioned the heat. I know you were mentioning in regards to the pressure sending by, this is a Todd Bowles defense who he tends to send that pressure.
Yep. Sure
but I do think the heat was actually a factor. 2 things that I noticed. One, they were late out of the huddle all day long, which I can't stand. Like, this is an offense that's built on getting to the line, sending people in motion, manipulating coverage, seeing alignments, pre-snap, giving the quarterback every advantage. When you're breaking the huddle with like 12 seconds left and you're still worried about alignment, that's a thing. All the snap, they should have been called for delay of game 4 different times that they weren't. I don't know if you noticed that, but like literally like 4 different times they should have been called for delay of games with the snap get off. And you see Brock wiping the hand. So like that heat and that sweat, and everybody's talked about Brock not having the biggest hands, right? And like, will that be an issue? We've seen struggles in rain at time, right? And then also with just like, your own bodily fluid, I guess, right, in terms of sweat. But I do think it was a problem. I do think it was an issue. No, good news. If you ever have to see Tampa again, it's going to be in January, right? And while it's still warm there, it's not going to be 88 degrees on a Sunday afternoon. But that being said, like, I do think there were things that he was struggling with like throughout the game that weren't necessarily game related, were more element related. But previous statement, hell of a game, hell of a finish to the game. Collectively, the body of work was all there. Just like I said, there was just moments where I was like, that it just doesn't feel as natural as it did in 2023, if that makes sense, right? Like, I mean, that dude, we talked about it on this show all the time. We were like so thankful to get rid of the Jimmy G experience. And the Jimmy G experience was when it was a passing down, when he let go of the ball, you had no idea where it was going, right? You were like, oh no, this is going to be an interception. Brock gave us confidence in that regard. And I'm starting to lose just a little bit of that with some of the decision making, some of the tight window, some of the errant overthrows. I mean, there was one to Debo yesterday that gets chalked up as a beautiful throw over the middle, quick pass. He's already releasing it. But this is where continuity and relationships with your teammates come into play. Confident that Debo's breaking in. What if Debo breaks out? That's going to hit a safety dead in his freaking chest, and they're going the opposite way for 6. Like, it's that stress that makes me go crazy. But no, by and large, you pull up that stat line, and you're like, gosh darn, what a game by Brock Purdy. And if you just watch the fourth quarter, you'd be like, this guy's it. Like, he is it. He is him. Himothy, right? Is that what the young kids say these days?
Yeah, sure.
Or the old guys trying to be young kids. Is that what?
Hello, fellow kids, or fellow whatever that meme is. Yeah, and Corey with another super chat. Thank you, Corey. Says Juwan Jennings or George Kittle were player of the week. If Jennings didn't jump on that Purdy fumble, did the 49ers win? Kittle and Juwan bailing Brock Purdy out all game, but Brock Purdy did have a good fourth.
Yeah. Well, perfect segue, because I think I gave Corey my notes, because my first nominee
Give
here
us one.
Is welcome back, third and Juwan. I mean,
Ooh.
Jesus, 7 of 93, 11 targets. When have we ever talked about Juwan Jennings in any scenario getting 11 targets in a football game? And I know he started the season hot, but even then he wasn't getting 11 targets. And this is with Christian McCaffrey back. Translation, Brock believes in him. Translation, he's producing results, and he does it in the biggest of moments. I'll shout out what Corey's saying right here. That to me, this is a stat that doesn't show up that we need to talk about. The recovery of that fumble. That's just hustle Juwan Jennings. That is prototypical Juwan Jennings in a nutshell. Diving all over the place, sacrificing that long, lanky body of his, and could have just saved the game in recovering that fumble that Brock wasn't able to scoop up himself. And then, the final offensive play of the game. 85% of receivers would step out there, and they'd be right to do it. You got 5-6 yards. You saved 7-8 seconds of clock to run another play, which could have netted the same amount of yards that he got after the catch, but no guarantees on that. Like, again, the confidence is growing in 15 for him to say, I am not stepping out. I see 7-8 more yards here. I'm putting our kicker within range. And newsflash, by trajectory of the Jake Moody final game-winning kick, if that ball's 5 yards back, that field goal does. If it's the exact kick in the same trajectory, that ball does not go through the uprights. And we're talking about him probably not even boarding the plane back to Tampa Bay.
God, man. Yeah, Juwan Jennings. Oh, no, go ahead.
No, that Juwan Jennings. That's
it.
That's it. That's the statement.
That's the statement right there. Yeah, 5 of his 7 catches went for first downs in this game. And I can't think of one bigger than that last one. Literally, because I don't even know if he was coached to do that. Like, hey, like Jennings, like, stay in bounds on this, because usually you're hustling and you're looking to get out of bounds. In that moment, though, it felt super critical to get every yard you can gain, and Jennings did that. He's been so like sneakily good after the catch, since last season. Like to start this season, he's just been incredible. You know what I'm gonna do, and this is no slight to Brandon Ayuk at all, but I'm gonna pretend that Juwan Jennings got the contract that Brandon Ayuk got, And I'm going to pretend they flipped contracts, all right? Because we're going to have Juwan Jennings for the rest of this season. He's playing X receiver now. Kyle Shanahan pretty much confirmed that. This was his first game playing at X, and he did pretty good, I might say, right? And to your point, 11 targets. It's clear the chemistry that him and Brock Purdy have. And one thing that I want to say about Corey's comment, right, that like Jennings, Kittle were bailing out Brock Purdy. Yeah, I mean, it is a team sport, right? Brock Purdy has to throw the ball, and you know who you're throwing it to.
Yep.
And you trust those guys to make a play afterwards. Juwan Jennings definitely doing that for this team. I mean, he's all effort. Effort. And I think we all love that about him.
And the move is it's the same move every time he catches the ball. It's like that little,
it's like this little
drop
little
step,
slide.
right? Like, come on, like you, it looks like it's in slow motion, and I'm having a little fun on Jennings, and Jennings' behalf right here. But it's not like he's Saquon Barkley leaping over people backwards. You know what I mean? Like he's like it's just like
elusive,
like a 7th grade basketball crossover jab step, and he toasting these 4-2
Euro
DBs.
on them.
Yeah.
It in the Euro. That was a great nomination and one that made, I think, plenty of sense. Look, another one that was mentioned right in the chat by a lot of people, George Kittle, and for good freaking reason. I can't help but say his name with the swear word in between his first and last because he is that dude. Second highest graded player on PFF this morning from this game, right? Caught all 3 of his targets. First of all, criminal that he only gets 3 targets in this offense. All 3 of his catches moved the chains. He got some nice yak on one of them as well. First quarter, he also had that one where he had to get up and fingertip grab again. That was when Purdy was like throwing them up way too high. So that's one example, Corey, of Kittle, kind of bailing Purdy out on that one. And this was, to me, a good moment where they both helped each other out. Fourth quarter, you need to score. You're in the red zone, 11-yard touchdown. Purdy's looking for someone to throw, right? Scramble, looking. And they just kind of know. There's this knowing of I got you. You just stay right there, and they make it happen, right? And that's the beauty of that connection. That's the beauty of George flipping Kittle. I mean, he's so good. He's one of one. I get it. This team has a lot of guys who can do a lot of good things, but I just still continue to feel like Kittle needs to be involved more. He's that good, especially in the red zone. Like, it always pays dividends in the red zone. And what's crazy to me is that Kittle even said, my job on that play was originally to just, hold the safety, like keep the safety occupied so that Christian could score. Yeah. My God, it's just crazy.
He is Mr. Do Everything. I was having this conversation. So my son wanted to repaint his room in our new house for the second time, and he wants it 49er gold. No problem. So it's painted, it's done. And we got some fatheads on the way. In the first one, he's like, I want Kittle. And this is a 6-year-old, mind you. He wants Kittle, McCaffrey, Debo in that order, right? That's the way it's coming. But he's like, I want Kittle. And I'm just like, I like talking to my buddy about it, but talking to my brain about it. Like, how do I explain to my 6-year-old what a national treasure George Kittle is? Because that's what he is. Like, he is, to your point, he is one of one as a person, as a player, as a hype man. And it is a travesty that he is not 7 to 10 targets every single game. I'm putting this out into the universe. I know what will cure the 49ers red zone woes. If you are inside the 7-yard line, I need to see George Kittle on some sort of jet sweep or in between the tackles while he's in motion. And it's because he wants to get in that end zone more than anybody else. And when you're that
Yeah.
close to the line, it is will and desire over effort all day long. Like, and you see that, like, he turns that 4-yard catch into 40 yards down the field, taking 6 defenders with him. You know, like we saw it there. Who can forget in 2019 that the play again in New Orleans, right, where I thought he like literally tore every ligament in his knee when they had 3 guys jump on him, and I thought it was the end. Like, just time and time again, he does it. And I don't know, it feels like outside of Jawan Jennings' performance so far this year, when you need a play, 85's the guy. Like,
Clutch.
he's the guy. And I don't care if you got to force it. Like, he's the guy.
Yeah, because if you got to force it, he will make the play. Like, it's just at that point, it's who wants it more. Like you said, it's always George Kittle. Like, George Kittle always wants it more. And this is going to be all of us in the future when our respective kids asks, how good was George Kittle? And we're just like, oh, just stop.
I have a hard time quantifying George Kittle the same way I have a hard time quantifying like Roger Craig. The only thing that I can say to anybody who also hasn't seen Roger, Hall of Fame, whether they're there or not, they're Hall of Fame players. George Kittle included in that. Yeah, right? Like, this is how I feel when I think about him no longer playing for the San Francisco 49ers one day. Yeah. Bad. But great.
Oh man. All right. Well, give me another nominee if you have.
I got 2 left.
Okay.
And both of yours, by the way, were not mine so far. So this is good.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah,
Good
I have
balance.
one more.
I got 2 more. I'm going to stay on the offensive side of the ball.
Okay.
And it's the 49ers version of Pretty Ricky. Slick Rick, Ricky Pearsall. How is it not getting his first NFL touchdown? 4 for 73, 6 targets by all means, like, involved in the offense early in this game, late in this game. His impact was felt. We talked about the explosives that have seemed to be, I shouldn't say they've been lacking from the 49ers, because they have probably the most, if not top 3 in the NFL of 20-plus yard chunk plays, but they haven't been house calls like they've been in the past. And Ricky took his to the house. He was moving. Just feels like he's pretty smooth and fits into this offense. And we talked about this with some of the rookies on the defensive side of the ball earlier in the year. The more they see the field, the better they seem to get. And we've just now seen 3 weeks in a row of just constant progression from Ricky. Really composed at the podium afterwards, talking about the play, talking about the touchdown, talking about the missed opportunity earlier and wanting to get that back and taking advantage of that. Just feels like he's going to fit in real nice, and looks the part of a first-round wide receiver. And that's hard to say in the 49ers offense because, you know, a first-round wide receiver is getting 11 targets like Jawan Jennings, not 5 or 6 like Ricky Pearsall, but making the most of his opportunities, like I said, to the tune of 4 for 73, second most on the team. And he got his first tutty. So Slick Rick, Pretty Ricky, whatever we're doming him. Ricky Pearsall, and he does got a little. He's just got a little swag to him.
He's got aura. He's got aura, man.
Yeah, I dig it.
He really does. And I love this one, right? I did have him in my to give flowers to. I was gonna give him some flowers, but I knew that one of us would probably nominate him, and I was kind of thinking you would. So this is good. This is good. Yeah, no, I love that Ricky Pearsall has found a role, that the 49ers are giving him a role. Again, I know it's because of injuries, but like he deserves it, right? And he seems to get better and more comfortable each and every week. I could tell that him and Brock have a pretty good chemistry going. That's only going to build as the season goes on. So I'm just super encouraged by what I've seen from him so far. His ability to get open already. Like, that was one of those things, right? Like, oh yeah, he can get open. He was able to get open at Florida. Could he do it at the NFL level, right? Like, that was always kind of the knock on him, and why in the first round people thought thought that was a little too high for him. So far, like, he's looking like a first-round receiver, back-end first-round receiver, right? And that's okay. Like, that's great for this team. And what a moment for Ricky to get his first NFL touchdown. I wish he could have had that moment at home, because I just know, like, 49er fans would have gone crazy for him. But hey, like, isn't it cool that he can have that moment where it all started in Florida? I'm sure he had some former teammates or family members out there to see him. So I just thought that was a really cool moment. And of course, he kept that ball as a keepsake, and just start the collection, Ricky.
Another Juwan Jennings epic moment, talking about how George Kittle's a better teammate because George Kittle remembered to get the ball for Ricky Pearsall and not him. But that's what you like to see, right?
Yep.
And that bodes well for the future state of the 49ers at the skill position group, right? Is like who's going to stencil in as that third or fourth receiver, even higher if Debo's moved on from in the offseason. Still TBD, depending upon the contract situation. So Ricky Pearsall.
All right, I got one last one to nominate here, and I'm going to go to the defensive side of the ball. I'm going Renardo Green.
Yeah.
Was this yours too?
Yeah.
Your last one?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're all good here.
Perfect. Yeah, I mean, because I always like to do at least one defensive player, but that's not the reason that I'm voting for or nominating Renardo Green today. I'm nominating him because he was that good in this game. And it was a shame he couldn't finish the game with an injury, and we'll talk more about that in a bit. But he was huge in this one. There were at least 3 plays that I recall just watching them and thinking to myself, wow, that's big. Like, I immediately wrote down, made a note for myself that it was a big play. And then lo and behold, he had not just one more, but 2 more of those plays, right? And if you guys are curious, I did a little thread on them on my Twitter X account, because I don't normally share videos to make a case for a player for 49K Player of the Week, so I won't do that here. But there was the first play was an open field tackle on Bucky Irving. Bucky Irving, really good running back, by the way, and he was the last line of defense on that one. If he gets past Renardo Green, that's a touchdown. He gets him open field, like I said, really tough tackle to make. And the Bucs end up, I think they end up kicking a field goal on that one. So he saved a few points there for the 49ers. Then, what was it? There was the incompletion, the one that got overturned, right? You remember that one? He was draped all over that guy. And I think, I don't know if he, explicitly created that incompletion, but he added to the chaos. So I am going to say that was a very good coverage play by Renardo Green that probably made it a little more difficult for Miller or Raheem Jarrett to come in with that catch. So that was big too, because if that catch had happened, they would have been in field goal range. What did they end up doing? They punted because of that. So that was huge. And then the last one, I think it was in the fourth quarter, it was at the end of the third quarter. And there was a deep play to Miller. This was the one to Miller that he ends up breaking up in the end zone. I saw the all 22 on it. He actually got beat because Miller sold an out, and then he kept going up. Renardo Green was behind on that play. Baker Mayfield throws it short because of the pressure that he was facing. He didn't get to set his feet. Short throw that allows Renardo Green to, gain some yards on that one and end up breaking up the pass. So that's big. I don't care what the circumstances are so much, because it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And he finished that play incredibly, because again, they ended up scoring on that drive, the Bucs did, but it was big, I think, for this team, just some of the plays that he made in this game. And I just feel like people aren't really talking about it enough, right? Like, he was targeted 5 times in this game, only 27 yards allowed, 2 pass breakups, 2 forcing completions, 83.9 coverage grade on PFF. That was the highest on the team. And adding the fact that the team didn't have Mooney Ward in this one, and I understand the Bucs don't have like a huge threat of receivers, right? But Ronaldo Green, rookie, I want to see improvements each and every week, and I am seeing them from him. So I love it.
Yeah. Lots of love to the Ward family. Obviously, they're going through what they're going through. Couldn't even, as a father myself, I couldn't even imagine what he and his girlfriend or fiance, I believe, are fighting through right now. So wishing them the best, of course. Yeah, like Ronaldo Green, another guy, just taking advantage of the opportunities. And yes, and yes to everything that you said, right? I can't make a different point. The only thing I can do is go a little bit further. What was even more impressive about, yes, on the play that he was beat, and yes, it was an underthrown ball, but it was that underthrown ball is technically designed to draw pass interference, right? Because when a D-back is recovering, he's running full speed with his back to the ball and never turns his head around. Usually runs right through the offensive player, and it's PI on the spot. And it's like 99 times out of 100. Yeah, it was close, but it wasn't, right? And that's just good. It's a little luck, right? That the ball got there when it got there, but that never quitting on the play. Yes, they did score eventually on the drive, but yeah, they had to earn it, right? They didn't get it on that free busted play. They had to keep competing and keep coming back, and that's all you want. The offense has to take more snaps, right? Should never get it done easy, right? I look at it like pitching. It's not a good thing when the opposing pitcher gets out of the inning in 4 pitches. You know what I mean? They got to work for it a little bit. The offense has got to earn it, got to work for it. You can handle when you get beat on a 16-play drive, not when you 2 plays and they go 80 yards. But in any case, Bernardo Green just taking advantage of every opportunity. We knew he was going to get it. I mean, Steph, we talked about this, post-draft. I said, this guy's going to get opportunities. You're going to be really pleased with what you see. He plays a physical brand of football, and that's the other thing I like. These, what do DBs, corners in particular, they always get, knocked for making business decisions, right? Which means they don't want to tackle. They just want to cover. That's all they want to do. They want to have longevity. Ronaldo Green is physical. Deommodore Lenoir, physical, right? Mooney, maybe not as much as the other guys, but they want to come up and smack you, and they want to play that brand. And that's become 49er defensive back football, and I like it. And you're getting that tone set from the youngins. And Ronaldo Green, arrow, no pun intended, the arrow's green, right? It's pointing up for you, bud. Keep playing that way, and you're gonna be playing in this league for quite some time, just hopefully wearing the 49ers jersey.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, we got a couple of injury updates from Kyle Shanahan before we went live here. So as for Ronaldo Green, it was a toe injury late in the game, and so he is day to day. George Kittle dealing with the hamstring. I guess it was hamstring irritation for Kittle. He'll be reevaluated on Wednesday. And Mitch Wishnowsky, back's acting up, I guess. He's just like us. He's going to look for different treatment this week. So we'll continue to monitor these injuries throughout the week. But yeah, hopefully Ronaldo Green and Kittle, of course, are good to go going forward. But we've got our nominees for 49K Player of the Week against the Bucs. We've got Purdy, we've got Jennings, we've got Kittle, Pearsall, and Green. Guys, vote for your 49K Player of the Week in the chat. Pick one. And in the meantime, Weston and I are going to give flowers. All right. I only got one.
I don't have any.
Well,
and
you don't have any? Okay.
And I don't say that negatively. Like the cop-out answers, I thought the defense collectively played really well. There wasn't a ton of standout play, right? There wasn't a highlight reel. The pass rush was absent for most of the game, especially considering they lost an all-pro tackle in the second quarter. And still struggled to get home. But I thought they were consistent. I thought they played hard. I thought everybody played sound ball. So that would be my, Malik Collins. I would give flowers to. He tends to show up in the pass rush a little bit more than I anticipated. I thought he'd be a little bit more stout against the run than he's been, but thought he played collectively a pretty darn good game yesterday.
Yeah, no, it was a pretty decent day for him. I'm going to give flowers to someone who I have put on notice in a previous week, right? And that guy is Devondre Campbell. I think he probably played his best game, which is not saying much. Okay, I understand. I'm not saying a whole lot, but
Yeah.
I got to call out improvements when I see them. And Devondre Campbell looks like he's getting into form. Hey, it only took 10 weeks, right? We'll take it. 7 tackles, including a tackle for loss, a pass defended in this one. So he looks more comfortable in this defense, and maybe Nick Sorensen putting him in favorable spots as well. But yeah,
Yeah.
Devondre Campbell, I got to give him some flowers for that. But that's pretty much the only player, because we already talked about Ricky Pearsall. He was the other one I would have given some flowers to.
Yeah, I honestly, Devondre looked faster yesterday. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was the heat.
The bye week, baby.
Yeah, bye week. Just at our age, we need those bye
fresh.
weeks. You know what I mean? We need that week rest. But he definitely has been coming on, especially the last 2 games. I thought he's played better than he has. So the flowers and the notice is well deserved, I guess.
Yeah, I forgot. Like, I do want to give a shout out to the offensive line, because I think they held up a little bit better than I thought they would against like the blitz, and that has been an issue, right? Like just blitz protection and things like that. So like Purdy did get sacked 3 times, but I think overall Dominic Pooney was good. I thought Trent Williams, obviously good. So I'll give them some flowers this week as well. But we got to put some people on notice and continue voting, people. If you haven't yet, I see a few votes coming in. But continue voting while we put someone on notice here. I mean, Jake Moody. I mean, we have to do it. We have to talk.
We're going to talk.
We've got to talk.
I'm just going to say the whole specials. Tabor Pepper, like, dude, just get to the sideline, man. You know what I mean? Like, just get to the sideline. You're a long snapper in the NFL. You will never win the argument with a superstar player, whether you're right or wrong, right? But at the end of the day, your guy that you want to hitch your wagon to has missed 3 field goals in a single game. 2 of them are basically considered layups in the NFL in this day and age. Like, and I get it. Like, I actually kind of respect it a little bit, but at the end of the day, like, know your place on the team. I have no problem with what Debo did. I have heard rumors that it continued on the sideline in a little childish way with like pointing and smirking and doing. I don't got time for any of that BS if I'm being real. But in terms of just holding your teammates accountable, he's got a C on his chest. You might not like the way he did it, but you're not the one who appointed him a captain. His teammates did, right? So call it what it is. Respect what he did, and God, I'm significantly older than Debo. I come from an era that, like, lucky that's all it was, and not just a throat punch in the middle of a game, like, or to the kicker, let alone the long snapper. And it was just words, but specials. It's been awful. Like, it's just awful. Awful. Like, I feel like I'm making it up. Like, it's not even like, if I try to explain that to somebody who never watched an NFL game before, they'd be like, you're lying. And no, I'm not. This is the truth of what's unfolding.
Sometimes, like, we as fans are a little over dramatic about things, and we'll admit to that every now and again, right? This is one thing we're definitely not being over dramatic about, because it's just that bad. Like, I think that's kind of what you're feeling about it, and I am too. It's almost like unbelievable that they're this bad and nothing is happening about it. And I'll tell you this, I don't think anything is going to happen about it, at least not in season, whether we're talking about Moody, whether we're talking about Brian Schneider, 49ers special teams coach. Nothing is going to happen to them until the end of the season, if anything happens at all. I mean, it is what it is. That's just what I think is going to happen, because I don't see the 49ers making any of those moves in season. And for people who don't think I'm crazy or everyone else who is suggesting to move on from Moody for missing 3 kicks in this one game. Let's not act like this is the first multi-miss game that he's had.
Yep.
B, we've seen kickers get cut for a lot less in this league. And C, the only reason that he is not is because of where he was drafted. And whose decision was that? The San Francisco 49ers. So that's why I say you got to cut your losses, I think, because this is bad. Like, this is unacceptable. Like I said, if any other kicker who was 7th round UDFA pick, they'd be off this team. Right?
Yeah. I mean, Anders Carlson, all he did was make all of his kicks and he's off the team. Right. It is everything to do with draft selection. It has everything to do where he's drafted. In fact, I'd have a lot more respect for Kyle Shanahan if you just like, you know what? I messed that up. Shouldn't have spent a third round pick on a kicker. Time to move on. But to your point, Steph, about specials being corrected, it's darn near impossible to do middle of season. A, there's not enough time and attention focused on it on a traditional practice week. B, when you make those decisions about investing into your special teams, that's done in the off season by certain players that you bring in. And you just don't have the ability to do that in the middle of the season. And look, I mean, we can blame the special teams coordinator all we want. He's not out there fielding punts. He's not out there kicking the field goals. Like, he's not doing those things, right? Like, I'll get on him more when it's return coverage, right? Or busted protection on a kickoff return or a punt return. But like, listen, the dude who got blocked into whomever, I can't remember who it was by play. Yeah, Luter, who got blocked into Cowan, like, that's not taught. Right? That's not the special teams coordinator be like, dude, go stand right in front of your returner. If anything, I got a bigger problem with Cowan. Like, he's so aggressive. It's like, dude, sometimes you just got to walk away from the ball. You know what I mean? That's why they have a call. Depending on where you grew up, it's called Peter, or poison, right? You hear the P, that means get away from the ball. Look, find the ball and get away from it. Use it. Live to fight another day. But then again, he has a good return. So it's specials in general. But more importantly, in this particular instance, it's your kicker, and I'm cowing. I'm having. It's not his first muff, you know what I mean? He finds himself in dangerous territory when he's going to field that ball, and that's the nature of the position. But you know, I just want him to be a little bit more conservative because clearly we don't return punts or kickoffs for touchdowns. Like, I'd rather have possession. So it's gotten to the point where we do anything on specials: kickoff return, punt return, extra point. I walk out of the room. I can't even watch it.
Yeah, and that's for good reason at this point, just kind of clenching until it's over. The 49ers did make a move today. They signed former Giants cornerback Nick McLeod, and he has a long record of being a good special teams player, contributor, 704 special team snaps in his career. Although, don't get too excited. Kyle Shanahan said that he was just added to the practice squad primarily for depth because one of their other depth piece corners, Chase Lucas, is dealing with an injury right now, out a couple weeks. So that's why they brought in Nick McLeod. But hey, man, the way the special teams is looking, I don't know. You might want to make that elevation and see what he could do. Just why not?
Yeah, you can't get any worse. I'll say the only bright spot about Jake Moody is at least when he's kicking the ball off, I don't have to worry about their team returning it. It's going into the end zone and starting at the 30.
Yeah, no, he has a cannon of a leg.
Yeah,
right. Just the direction sometimes could be an issue at times. But all right, Weston, who do you got for 49K Player of the Week? I've got Juwan Jennings. Oh,
not dancing with the dude you brought to the dance when you let off with Brock. I see. I'm Juwan as well.
I thought you were saying that I wanted Renardo Green to win, which I do think it was a great performance by him. But yeah, no, Brock Purdy, I didn't close, but I agree. I think like just full game. We got to think full game performance, and I think Juwan Jennings like from start to finish. Everything he did was great. So, and everyone else voted for him. So,
is it unanimous?
Full sweep. Jawan Jennings, unanimous decision. 49K player of the week.
Hold on, I need to know who Mr. Sanchez voted for.
He voted for Jennings.
Okay,
my dad, who he said he was torn between Jennings and Kittle. He said Jennings. So we gotta give it to him. Gotta keep it going. All right. Well, I appreciate all of you that tuned in today. The live chat was popping from start to finish. So I really appreciate that. Make sure you like this video if you haven't yet. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. There'll be plenty to talk about this week and how this 49ers team is going the rest of the season. We've got NFC West team playing tonight, Monday Night Football, the Rams against the Dolphins. So we'll be watching patiently, seeing what happens there, because it's not just the 49ers that we got to hope wins. We got to hope for a number of different losses around the NFC as well if we're going to make it into this thing. So we'll be watching that. Hope you guys enjoy that. Audio listeners, leave a rating, leave a review. But for now, folks, have a good rest of your Monday. Peace.